I know it's got to be weekend somewhere, right? The saying goes 5 o'clock somewhere, it's weekend somewhere. Old Speckled Hen. If you haven't had it before, I definitely recommend it. So over the past few videos, I received great comments and discussions about SEC adoption of regulatory clarity for digital assets. It really took me a few videos to get onto this topic, and I really do want to thank all of my viewers who have commented and asked questions about the SEC clarification as to whether or not XRP is a security or not. Now, without government regulation, the U.S. is slowly slipping behind while other countries are quickly assuming the mantle and really paving the way to digital asset mainstream adoption. In the U.S., there are a number of direct organizations that are directly impacting the digital asset mainstream adoption, and with the lack of response, a direct cause of the company and the brain drain from the US. And this is definitely an issue. We can look at the federal government, the SEC, we can look at Congress, the federal courts, then we can also look at what the state governments are doing to provide a regulatory framework to mainstream adoption of blockchain companies and digital assets. Hi, this is Jeff with the HODL Report. Join me on today's video as we apply the Howey Test. Yes, who the F is Howey? To determine that XRP is not a security, and it's the exact same test that's used by the SEC. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to give a thumbs up, leave some comments below, share with your Twitter friends, your YouTube friends in general, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Again, although not naming you all by name, I do want to thank all of my YouTube subscribers and those who have engaged on my videos. Great conversations, great comments, and this SEC topic has really been prompted by a lot of these conversations. Now, SEC clarity is often discussed. It's often asked about and often finger pointed as the root cause of the lack of mainstream adoption as to why banks have also not gone all in yet on XRapid, the XRP, or the RippleNet solution, XRapid. The SEC is important. However, let's remember that there are other organizations that can provide huge leverage and a direct path to regulatory clarity. Congress, go back and review some of the videos that I made on this. See the links at the end to learn about what Congressman Soto and Davidson are actively doing to pass bills through Congress to create a friendly environment for blockchain companies and digital assets. Congress is a direct way for all of us, to the person, to be involved. And as I mentioned in those videos, I did start a direct initiative to lobby and educate those congressional candidates that are standing in the direct path to actually pass the bills that Davidson and Soto are working on. So if you want to get involved, do send a comment below. Let me know, hey, I want to get involved in this initiative. It's going to take a monumental group effort, grassroots. So definitely contact me on this. Now, the other organization, the federal courts. Now, when we go through the Howey Test, we're also going to use one recent U.S. federal court case that actually overturned an SEC decision on an ICO being a security. Now, court decisions can set a precedent for future decisions, and we'll talk about that a little bit. State governments are getting involved in the discussion, and they are passing legislation to normalize digital assets and blockchain, creating government-friendly environments. Look at the recent initiatives from Ohio, Wyoming, Colorado, and I'm sure we'll see more following along that path as states are really struggling to attract more people for the job market, and they want more revenue flowing in, and what better way to get revenue than being cutting edge. Now, let's get right to the point of why you guys came in to watch this video, using the SEC test to determine if XRP is a security or not. Now, before we apply the test, let's look at some facts that we already know. Ripple has been around since 2012. XRP has been around since about 2013. So that's 6 years that the SEC has had the opportunity to investigate, observe, apply their tests, issue decisions, issue penalties, whatever it is that they need to do, and they didn't do it. Now, if a company is out in the public and there is some form of transgression on the company's part, then you would expect that the SEC would step forward relatively quickly and issue a decision, and especially issue penalties. They haven't. Brad Garlinghouse has said time and time again that XRP is not a security. Obviously, a primary from Ripple that is a large holder of XRP would want to protect their own interests. However, Brad Garlinghouse is not a rookie. He's not new to the scene. He has some of the best minds involved with him in the Ripple company, and I'm sure that some of the best attorneys that money can buy are working with him as well. Now, I could be wrong on this, but I highly doubt that Brad Garlinghouse would jeopardize his own integrity or that of his company Ripple by making statements that he has no grounds and that have not been well vetted in advance of making those statements. Now, these two facts alone are definitely not enough, so let's continue and let's actually apply the SEC Howey Test. First, what in the world is the Howey Test? Who is Howey, and what does he have to do with deciding whether or not an investment is a security? And I think this is definitely a valid question. Now, the Howey Test, a U.S. Supreme Court case of the SEC versus Howey. You know that the SEC is using valid case law to make decisions, as this was a recent case issued May 2nd of 1946, with a decision that was actually issued on May 27th, 1946. So this is 73 years ago. Now, a summary of the case. The case involved a citrus grove, a farmer, and investors investing in plots of the land that the farmer was selling. Now, he sold that per the case with a contract for the farmer to cultivate the land, to market, and then giving part of the profits from the citrus sales to the investors. The SEC claimed that the farmer's sale of these plots was actually an offering of an investment contract based on the exact meaning of the term as it appeared in the Securities Act of 1933. Now, remember, incidentally, the Securities Act of 1933 is the very same act that under Davidson's HR 7356 proposed bill is seeking to amend in favor of digital assets. Now, as it is defined in the Securities Act of 1933, a security including any investment contract, and the farmer's sale was therefore subject to the registration requirements of the act. So again, you know, they're claiming that the farmer's sale falls under the investment contract definition according to the Securities Act of 1933. Now, let's go back and let's read directly from the case law as to the definition used for investment contract. Now, this is important, so this is why I took these specific sections out to read. So let's start. For purposes of the Securities Act, an investment contract undefined by the Act means a contract, transaction, or scheme whereby a person invests his money in a common enterprise and is led to expect profits, remember this part of it, solely from the efforts of the promoter or a third party. Now let's continue. The fact that some purchasers, by declining to enter into the service contract, chose not to accept the offer of the investment contract in its entirety does not require a different result, since the Securities Act prohibits the offer as well as the sale of an unregistered non-exempt security. So basically it's saying it doesn't matter whether or not some of the people entered into it with the intent of getting profit and they just wanted the land and some others did. It doesn't matter. Regardless, based on the Securities Act, the offer in itself was prohibited and should have been registered under the Security Act of 1933 based on that the registration requirements. Sorry. Now, let's finish here. The test of whether there is an investment contract under the Securities Act is whether the scheme involves an investment of money in a common enterprise with profits to come solely from the efforts of others. I think this is important. We should underline this also, the profits to come solely from the efforts of others. And if that test be satisfied, it is immaterial whether the enterprise is speculative or non-speculative, or whether there is a sale of property with or without intrinsic value. Okay, so in the end, this case was found in favor of the SEC, and I kind of hinted at that as I was reading through it. In that the farmer sold plots of his lands with a marketing contract, and the investors in this contract were directly benefiting from the labors and the efforts of the farmer. It was decided that he sold a security and was required, therefore, to register his sale per the Security Act requirements. So now let's modernize this a little bit, and let's take a look at stocks sold of, let's say, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Walmart, what have you, it doesn't matter. The sale of these stocks all fall directly into the same category as Farmer Howey based on this SEC Howey Test. There's an investment contract. Individuals are buying stocks with a promise of getting benefit from the gains from the direct efforts of that specific organization whose stock they are buying. As a company grows, the stockholder expects direct profit in way of stock price increase or even dividends payout. This is very important to understand this part, because now what we need to look at is, so why does XRP differ? Why do most digital assets differ from the traditional stock sale of a company? So here's some questions that we want to try to answer, and there's probably others, but let's just summarize it down to a few. When there is a sale of the XRP, was there an investment contract? Did Ripple sell XRP to the investors? Was XRP purchased with a promise of benefit from the direct efforts of others, or in this case, from the direct efforts of Ripple? Now let's take a look at these. So, 1, Ripple did not sell XRP shares to investors, and Ripple was in fact gifted the XRP that it currently holds. Now, XRP does stand on its own as a digital asset and does not rely on the success or the failure of Ripple. If Ripple went away tomorrow, XRP would continue to exist. Now, that is completely unlike a stock that is issued by a company. Let's look. June 2009. General Motors files for bankruptcy under Chapter 11. GM reorganizes the company under this bankruptcy with a bailout from the government, and under this reorg, they issued General Motors with a brand new name as a brand new entity, and all of the old GM stock shares were dissolved with the old GM corporation. So as they terminated the old GM corporation, if you still held GM stock under that name, they were worth zero. They had nothing to do with them any longer. Now, the new GM came out, new shares were issued. They did not do a 1-for-1, and they did not recoup. Anybody who held shares did not receive a 1-for-1 for the new stock. They basically held worthless paper. So that is in complete contrast to the example or the comparison to Ripple and XRP, the digital asset. If Ripple closed up shop, XRP would continue to exist. We don't know. It's still very speculative digital asset, as they all are, as Bitcoin, as Litecoin, as Ethereum, and all the other many of digital assets that are out there. XRP would continue to exist and continue to be utilized as it has its own use case without the involvement of Ripple. Now, those investing in XRP also did not buy the XRP with the intent that they would directly gain from the efforts of Ripple. They didn't buy it as a stock. Those who invested, again, in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or the many others did not buy that with the intent that they would have a direct gain from the efforts of a company. So the bank's utility of XRP creates a higher demand and a lower supply. This will, in its intent, push up the price point of XRP as there's lower supply and higher demand. Now, this again is not the same as the direct efforts of Ripple, the company's effort to build its network and its company with an expectation of getting profit sharing, getting dividends, or seeing an increase in the price of XRP because now the company signed up 200 banks or it went out and created some new contracts. The two are working in parallel on their own without direct involvement of one or the other. Now, Ripple has incorporated the XRP token as part of the XRapid solution. So let's not forget that much of what much of the anticipation for the utility, for the use of the XRP token is tied through the payment solution through RippleNet using XRP through XRapid, and the intent that XRP will be utilized as a payment settlement by the banks, and also then solving a liquidity issue that the banks have. However, this is more utility of XRP that's outside of just the expectation that you're going to gain some sort of benefit from what Ripple's doing. And in addition to that, there is additional use case beyond what XRapid is doing. So let's look at exchanges are using XRP. Binance, as an example, is using XRP as a base trading pair. The XRP ledger as a native exchange of currency is actually built in to the ledger and is a perfect fit for working as a base pair. And it was actually brought up recently by Uphold that XRP would be a perfect solution for ACH, to replace ACH for internal domestic payment exchange. Now, companies like Coil, XRP Tipbot, Parrot are using XRP. Xspring is an initiative that's helping developers build on the XRP ledger that would also utilize the digital asset XRP. Obviously, they're not bound to use it, but in most cases, since it is the native digital asset of the ledger, they'll most likely utilize that digital asset. Now, there's court case precedent. And this just was issued recently, as recent as November 27th. U.S. District Judge Gonzalo Curiel recently overturned an SEC decision which declared BlockVest ICO a security. The federal judge said that the SEC decision failed to meet the Howey Test. The SEC actually did not show that the investors bought into the ICO with the expectation of making a profit from the effort of others, and again, identifying that like a stock purchase. And as I stated in the beginning, if the SEC had a case that the sale of XRP was a security, they would have really already have addressed this as they just did in SEC versus BlockVest. The SEC hasn't brought this case up on XRP, and after 6 years of having that opportunity, and as we're looking at it right now, XRP doesn't seem to meet the Howey test, which is the test that the SEC would use. XRP is still a speculative investment, but as the Howey Test case law stated, it's immaterial if the enterprise is speculative or if there is sale of property with or without intrinsic value. And I bring that up because digital assets are still speculative, and that part of the case, you can't make any claim that it was a speculative investment or it had intrinsic value or it did not have intrinsic value. That is irrelevant. Now, the fact remains that XRP was not sold to investors with the understanding that there would be direct benefit from the efforts of others. There's not a connection between the price of XRP and the direct efforts, results, or the financial gains or loss of Ripple, the corporation, and that was never the intent or expectation. XRP is a digital asset that was designed for payment settlement. Its value will increase and decrease based on supply and demand as utility increases or decreases by banks and financial institutions using the XRP digital asset or by the speculative FOMO or FUD, and you'll see the movement, and we saw the movement a year ago with a lot of FOMO in the market in general, and we saw prices ramp up. The CEO, as I just mentioned, the CEO of Uphold recently alluded to XRP being used to replace ACH for domestic payment transfer. That means that XRP on its own can stand on its own and does stand on its own and is being looked at by many others that see the true benefit of XRP. XRP is an amazing asset outside of the Ripple efforts. And really organizations around the world are quickly beginning to realize the full benefit of XRP. Now, all opinions expressed here are my own. The analysis of XRP not meeting the Howey Test is my analysis. It's not based on any SEC decisions or any SEC discussions. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to give a thumbs up, leave some comments below, subscribe if you haven't done so already, send a message through Twitter or leave a comment if you want to help out on our Lobby the Congress initiative to help Soto and Davidson with the blockchain and digital asset bills. And a last note before we sign off, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a legal advisor. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't come looking to me for any advice in any of those categories. However, you do need to do your own research. Invest only what you can afford to invest. Invest only what you can afford to lose. And don't buy or sell based on FUD or FOMO that's spread online. And with that, I look forward to seeing you on my next video. And keep on hodling your crypto.